Hi, this is Phyllis. Hi, this is Phyllis. I want to share with you the latest from my Second Win series, and I'm calling this one um, the update titled, What is Home to You? And basically, we're in the recovery and rebuild stage of COVID 19. So I'll speak clearly, and I'm hoping the audio will come through. But I want to give you an update on some things to think about as you ponder what is home to you. We have an agenda this time, some talking points to think about, including number one, what do you think of as home? Sometimes it means physical space, sometimes it means emotional space, sometimes it means both. I remember my mother mentioning that she wanted to go home. So, home means a lot to many people. It can be static, it can be mobile. Mobility, it can be both. So, I want to share some facts and some data. It's personal, we're all affected. We all have some idea of what is home. And then I want to summarize and move forward as we honor Memorial Day, and we're reminded of some terrible events that happened over 100 years ago that are only now coming to the surface. 24 years ago, 1997, but now we're getting some facts and some testimony from real life survivors of the Tulsa massacre. So here's one image I want to share of what is home to a lot of people. Not necessarily here on the West Coast, but for East Coast, it's a shelter, some kind of a roof, some kind of walls covering, and then a door in and out, an ideal image of what is home. But for others, it can be mobile. There was just a award given for the senior citizens that packed up their belongings and they're living in their cars, moving around. And I know what that feels like, but for some people, your car or your mobile space is actually your home. So I want to give you a few minutes to look at that and stay hydrated as we move through this chat about, well, what is home to you? Even if we're away from home, we keep memories and images, pictures, or music of what is home. So we have this car speeding along, and for many people, this is what is home. Sometimes we get there, we hope we're almost there. Out here on the West Coast, as I said, it's not the snow, but it can often be related to the beach or at least the outdoors and some beautiful, very pleasant weather, especially this Memorial Day weekend. It's become a very special celebration. I went out the other day and couldn't believe the people out walking around at their outdoor cafes. I didn't look at the mask, but I know people seem to be out and about enjoying their new reclaimed lifestyles without the pressure, so much pressure on COVID. This is another image of what is home for some people. I want to be realistic as I make these chats. It's not all glamorous, it's not all fancy, but some people, this images of the row house can be and is home, and that can be luxury compared to what they came from. So I want to stay on this slide for a minute just to look at and imagine, well, what is home to you? I've been in living in different circumstances. So for some people at a certain stage, it's just where you settle, where you can situate yourself for the time being. But I want to get real about the idea of home, COVID 19, the idea of a massacre that happened over 100 years ago. But the current reality is we have a homeless crisis. For LA County, the number of homelessness went from 46,874 data in 2016 to 66,436 in 2020, an increase of 20,000 over 5 years. They said 10,000 perished in the massacre, but we've had a 20,000 increase in homeless here in LA County just from 2016 to 2020. I want to flip to the next slide because it is personal. African Americans make up 34% of those experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County, despite representing only 8% of the overall population, according to the data. I'm going to repeat that. African Americans make up 34% of those experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County, despite representing just 8% of the overall population, according to the data. So when I hear some blithe statements about why haven't you found any other place to live? Why are you living under certain circumstances? People need to be reminded of the facts and of the data. And I'm glad we keep hearing the repetition about what happened over 100 years ago because it affects us today. People without savings, without an inheritance to count on. A lot of people end up like this, and veterans in particular. I hate to admit it, on Memorial Day, honoring veterans, but there's homeless veterans on the sidewalk. So, what does your day look like? That's the next question. I have an image of this lady standing here in the sunshine. You can imagine what's going on with this image, but I'm going to add some thoughts that if you spent your night out on the sidewalk or in a shelter that forces you out into the street every day by 7 or by sunrise, this is what your day looks like. Walking around, being outside, and then in this picture, just taking a pause to see where else to head during the day until you can return to your safe space. It can be spending time on the bus stop. That's why I included the image of this person riding the bus. Sometimes people spent hours before COVID-19 riding the bus stops on the longest routes here in our town, which can be along Wilshire Boulevard, some along Sunset and 6th and Olympic. But again, your day can entail, if you don't have a permanent safe place, riding the bus stop or jumping on that bus to get away from dangerous at risk situations. Or in many cases, it's riding the train. So I want to show you this image of the trains passing by left and right. We have that here on the West Coast, as well as in other major cities where you oftentimes are riding that train until it stops, making those transfers. Sometimes people are sitting on the bench that oftentimes many of us don't look at, but they're without a safe place. So another place of a safe haven somewhat can be at these public transit locations, either the bench, either the waiting for the next train to catch. So I want you to think about how blessed we are. And I just noticed this on this slide, and this is not intended. I'm going to have to do a little bit more editing, but I see at the end of this train station, the big building has that name on it, starting with a T and ending in a P. So there might be some additional editing needed to fix this slide. But that point is, what does your day look like? Is it hopping the train? Is it sitting on the bus stop, on the stoop, or hanging around different places just to keep moving? So we will end it on that, but I will have to take a closer look at some of these slides because I'm finding some surprises where I least expected. So I'm not going to put my cursor on that word any longer than I have to, but this is another test of your observational skills. If you see anything else on these slides, make a note of it. Send me an email if you see something weird like I see here in the corner, the traffic below. So I remember visiting Chicago and seeing, I think it's the A train, the elevated train, above the traffic, above the people. So again, this is a good test of your observational and listening skills that come in handy. So again, I want to show you the transportation that I'm often using, which involves access, a share ride for people that have some challenges. As long as you book ahead of time, you're in a safer space than just out on the street. And I'm very thankful for this. But what I want to show you again is what can be some other people's day, including being out and about in these shopping areas. So I want to play this briefly and show you, in many cases, it can be a sign of escape, a way to spend the day, and especially on a holiday, a way to get about. So I want to share this brief of what it looks like. It could entail walking around out in the sunshine. We're going to skip through these commercials and get back to what the day looks like if you stay in town and have a state vacation. We see people walking around. See if you can remember some of the stores. We see Foot Locker. We see Macy's, I believe, coming up soon. We see the outdoor farmers market where people are, the AMC theater. We see people walking around. I'm not going to name them all. I want to see if you can identify any other of these places. Goryeo-koku, which is a Korean restaurant, people sitting at their tables with masks. So obviously, this is taken during COVID and most likely recently as we've relaxed some of the requirements. But it's a nice way to spend the day out of the sunshine, people walking around. This is a good virtual trek around town. We see the person walking into the optometry doctor's office. We see some other people walking past one of the restaurants, P.F. Chang, that I've seen, and we see someone out on the sidewalk with their suitcase, and a lot of people are stuck. They're homeless without a place to stay, and you have to be out and about and moving around. Otherwise, it can cause problems. What we see here at the corner, I'm not going to name the street. I bet you can guess, and you probably will see some other familiar spaces. Let's scroll quickly through as we walk along the Blue Oyster Restaurant. I believe that's it. People are out having a little snack, enjoying the beautiful weather here on the West Coast, and it's something to be thankful for, especially considering your alternatives, which could include being stuck in a snowstorm. But the beautiful view of the beach, we see people walking along, but again, with a homeless crisis, we have had times where you see that person on the bench. Many have flocked to the beach or the open areas without a home and trying to find a place to feel somewhat safe. So we're going to run this little quick walking tour for a few more minutes. I still want to keep this chat somewhat short and sweet. We'll scroll through quickly and see what other sites. We see the Big Blue. We see the ski store. We see people waiting for their public transit. And we see the workers. We see these little bird scooters. And again, you'll see all kinds of things out and about. And this is a good idea of the whole point of this discussion. What is home? What makes your day and your life special? And it can entail, for me, in my circumstances, and working towards my doctorate since 2012, a lot of time spent in the 24-hour library. So I want to show you this Rotunda area that has become a refuge for many. They were shut down during COVID. Now they're partially open with very limited hours. But for me, that became somewhat of a home, especially in the archives, deep in the depths of the libraries. So, again, the story of what is home tells a lot about you and our background. I see a picture, I added this picture of this person in Brazil, and another picture of some wild flowers. So it can entail outdoors, it can entail nature, but some real serious facts of life. And I want to share with you some solutions. I pointed out some of the problems, but what I want to do is offer some solutions quickly and to the point. I'm working with several organizations, partnering with them as they advocate, including this Alliance for Human Rights, which is a coalition of community members to understand and address the crisis. There's nonprofits, service providers, including my organization Second Wind, small business owners who are saddened and very, very critically involved with addressing the suffering on the streets and fed up with the excuses about the status quo. And it's the same way with this rendition of the massacre that does need to be discussed and needs to be addressed because in my experience, again, I did my PhD research. I want to share two experiences that I dealt with when 1992, when Los Angeles riots, they call it the uprising, occurred and several businesses were burnt out, they were funded $1 billion to help these businesses rebuild again. 1992 LA uprising, they received funding from the US government of $1 billion. I don't think 10,000 people were killed, and I don't think 50 square foot of businesses were destroyed. So I think that gives some people a number. If they want to look at a quantitative number, you can think about a number of $1 billion. When Hurricane Katrina hit, I worked on that too. That was a partial funding for parts of the governmental entities. That was another $1 billion funded by Congress. So I want to move forward and talk about not only problems, solutions that I've seen work. If you drive around some of the areas affected in 92, you see they rebuilt very, very meticulously and even better with $1 billion. I said that at least 3 times. So I want to show you Union Station because this image shows how sparkling clean it is. And the images, the virtual images from the Academy Awards. I hope you do recall that. You can always look at that on YouTube. But this is the virtual image and what really came up. But I want to put this owl's image in here. You'll see this a few times. A red-eyed owl, because this is a metaphor for Judge Carter, who is in charge of the federal lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles and LA County to have them clean up the streets, address the homeless crisis, and he used the Academy Awards as an example. This is the case number 2:20-CV0291-DOC-KEC. He used the example, the underpasses, the overpasses leading to the Academy Award. Focus on that. They were cleaned up. This is on the way to the Academy Awards. I showed you pictures of Union Station, other areas, and the statement is I represent to you that this clogged with homeless tents area a short time before the Academy Awards. But for the Academy Awards, it was clean, sparkling. And if you don't know that, then you don't know Los Angeles. That's why I encourage you to walk around. The Federal Reserve presentation recently suggested we show our community. So that's why I'm taking a little bit of time to show the community. But it helps to walk around and see. The area was cleared sparkling clean for the Academy Awards of the visions of these tents of people camped out on the sidewalk in this area leading up to Union Station. So the judge raised the answer. As people are out walking around, as I mentioned, there's a significant number of African American as well as older people that are without housing. So I want to share some of this from the court proceeding that was last week, the May 26th and 27th. Your Honor, Miss Marston, for the Academy Awards, the surrounding areas were actually closed prior to the Academy Awards. So leading up to the event itself, LA Housing Authority conducted outreach. They told the clients in the area on the sidewalk that at a particular date, the area would be closed off for the Academy Awards. There were offers of shelter made for those who wanted it, but the alternative was, quote, the folks left and went to other areas. Now, I want to repeat that. The folks left and went to other areas, unquote. There's the owl again with a very skeptical, serious, red-eyed look because the judge reacted the following. So, the court says, and the Miss Marston. So the Academy Awards, the communication that LASA received was that the areas needed to be temporarily closed off for security reasons. The court said, from who? Miss Marston, from the city of Los Angeles. The court said, who? Our communication was from the mayor's office, I believe. The court said, who? You recall the image of the owl. Who at the mayor's office? The court said, yes. Miss Marston said, I believe. The court said, I sound like an owl. Who? The Miss Marston responded, I believe that was the Deputy Mayor Che, as well as the Unified Homeless Response Center. Now, as we see this person jogging, running down the street, you can imagine and transpose this image as they have told people they needed to clear the area. And there's some motivation, I'm sure, in order to actually execute it and get those sidewalks sparkling clean. But I want to show this image of movement and mobility for some people without a home. Again, back to the testimony. I believe it was the Deputy Mayor Che. The name Brian Buckner is the lead of the Unified Homeless Response Center and coordinates that. The court said, I want to compliment you. That took 5 minutes to get a name. No, that was a joke from the court. We have a name, all right. We're going to go back for just a moment, and I'm going to call Mr. Miller for a moment. So there was back and forth. The judge said, this is starting to look like the Wizard of Oz. We need to pull back the curtain and see what actually happened to clean off those sidewalks for the Academy Awards. But the rest of the communities, they mentioned Current Price's community and others that are heavily burdened with homeless on the sidewalk, were not cleared. But the judge raised the point. How is it that the Academy Awards and the entertainment industry that he complimented as being some of the most compassionate and most likely to help address this solution were not involved, but somehow the streets were washed clean? So that's a mystery I want to leave for you listeners to think about. But back to home. This is an image for some people of what is home. This looks like about 10,000 square feet. And as I've mentioned before, the average rent for most people would make only one of these window areas 300 to 500 square feet possibly affordable, with taking over 50% of your income. So let's think again. What is home to you? That's why I show these folks drawing their images of a house or a schoolhouse. We see some doing mathematics. We see some in the corner here doing some artwork. And we see some others in the corner here because it does require teamwork to address this issue of at least 60,000 people that are homeless and a significant rest of us at risk for homelessness with these moratoriums. So, what I'm doing, I am offering my solution for now. I've made donations. I support LA Alliance, writing and advocating as the court intervenes to get the governmental agencies to adhere to the court order that was last year, May 2020. They're still trying to get them to get the housing. But in the meantime, I'm working with PATH, having a fundraiser June 5th. That's about a week. It's called Making It Home Tour. I'm praying that we can be successful. I made my share of the donation, and I'm praying it will become a success. I know the general tickets are already sold out, but it's a great idea because they're making it a virtual home tour. Goldman Sachs research has shown that one of the fastest ways to accelerate change effectively and address the gaps in our wealth and in our economies is to look at the racial and ethnic and demographic differences. We can increase GDP by 300 to 450 billion dollars. So COVID-19 accelerated the pervasive chronic homelessness problem. PATH is having the fundraiser June 5th. And I encourage and invite you to do your research if you want to support this or any other effort to solve the problems. I highly encourage you. It's a great organization. They've been out on the streets helping people. Mission of ending homelessness for individuals, families, and communities. So as I remember and recall the issues, serious issues regarding the erasure and hidden facts of the massacre, my family roots. This is a picture of the casinos, the fancy tourist zone along the Gulf Coast. But as I remember and scroll back to where my aunt lived in Biloxi, our first stop was at the bus station. This is a picture of the Biloxi Transit Center we would take the train to New Orleans and take the Greyhound bus over to the bus station. But as we search for the remnants of where my aunt lived, this is what we see: a big empty picture. What do you see? A big empty picture and a vacant lot. So, as I recall and watch these various historical tributes to what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm reminded that many of us share a lot of these similar circumstances, memories now that only consist of an empty, vacant lot on Nixon Street in Biloxi. Now, if we look for my grandmother's house, we see another empty, vacant lot that's right by the bayou. I'll use my cursor to point to the woods and the bushes on the left. That was leading to the watery area. We didn't call it the bayou, it was just out back. But my grandmother's house, I believe, was where these three stepping stones were leading to, and the rather empty space. Everything else was torn down, and in the back, I believe they say it was turned into a park. So when you think about Joni Mitchell's song, they've turned paradise into a parking lot. Well, in this case, it's been turned into a park. So when I look at what happened to Bruce Beach, again, common theme and common bonds. So back to my solutions. A link to the virtual event on the PATH website. You'll receive one. You'll have access to this private event for a self-guided tour, in-depth tours of each home, mm, highlighted and streamed with access to do-it-yourself houses, decor, and design. So it'll be a great escape, and it's for a great cause. They will be sending us little boxes, box lunches that include PATH beverages, travel safe, other dining items, and more. So I'm looking forward to that, and I just want to share that. So I want to show this gentleman how we have to work together. Think. It's complicated. It's going to take work. If you want to share your ideas as we work through this phase of COVID that seemed to hit like a tsunami, feel free to. I'm showing these blocks, and I do hope you're hearing most of this because it's an ever moving, ever changing puzzle. We need all hands on deck. We have all this brain power and technology that can take us to Mars. I'm sure 60,000 people homeless, and addressing other vile elements of history that were overlooked for over 100 years should be fairly simple as we solve puzzles facing us in 2021. As I said, I worked as a federal disaster financial consultant and advisor for over 20 years, and I've mentioned two disasters that I worked on to help rebuild communities and restore their economic viability after a disaster. I will name those again: $1 billion to rebuild Los Angeles in 1992 after the uprising connected to Rodney King's beating. $1 billion. I said that twice. The second example is Hurricane Katrina. We had a community disaster infrastructure program that was passed by Congress, giving them another $1 billion to help them rebuild. So that was 17 years ago. So we have a lot of catching up to do, but it's time to take some positive action after we deal with this, as we deal with this grief and remembrances, because as I see these people who witnessed what happened, 106 years old, 90 years old. They're not going to be here forever, but at least we can get some testimonies and statements to carry with us, as well as the evidence from the people who are still living there to try to address these problems that, in my feeling, my strong conviction and experience, cannot and should not continue to be ignored as we look at these ever changing, moving parts of the puzzle. So I'll close this episode of Second Wind. You think about it again. What is home to you? What is actually in your heart and your mind? Feel free to think about it, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, send your reactions and feedback and Q&A. Send it to my email address or connect on LinkedIn. Be sure to get a subscription to the channel, as I mentioned, on YouTube. And I want to share another little bit as we finish up this. Again, I think it should be a brief and spectacular trip as we enjoy the neighborhoods, but there's even more because this is a mobile town and it's important to see what are some of the other beautiful sights around town. As the judge said, we do need to walk around. We do need to see what's going on in our community and share. I want to show you this quickly as we quickly skip through the commercials, try to find solutions, and enjoy this scene because even if we don't have a car, you're riding on the bus, you're likely to see some of this. So I'll show this. I hope the audio comes through. I will make sure that it's posted on YouTube. And again, you enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day as we cruise around town, take in the sights, look at the beautiful night lights. I remember taking a drive. I see there's Popeyes. I think that's in downtown Los Angeles, heading north, and we'll move a little bit further up. But I like these driving tours because it's a good way to get out and bring back some memories of how it was when we were up and about. And it will help with my sister cities um, interactions as we share what life is like in my town compared to Germany, Finland, Japan, and Dakar, Senegal. So again, I'll close for now. Thank you for listening. This is another picture of what we're talking about, the crisis that we have to deal with because it will come at you when you least expect it. And as the judge said, it's another Wizard of Oz situation where we need to pull back the curtain, look squarely in the eye, and find a way to solve this. So I found some change that I could donate to help PATH as they are